In the hour when even prayer runs out of words, something crossed my threshold and told me why some souls don't move on, why they linger in doorways, loop through rooms, and cling to names like life preservers. An interdimensional intelligence mapped the mechanics of getting stuck after death, what traps the newly departed, what loosens the grip, and how the living can help. This is not a ghost story. It's a field manual for crossings that falter. If you've ever felt a presence that refused to fade, or carry a house that sighs when it should sleep, subscribe now. What follows is a first-person account built for retention and relief, story-driven, emotionally precise, and ruthlessly practical. Breathe. The darkest hour has rules. Blue Winter, 2:38 a.m., a farmhouse that didn't want to be alone. My name is Jonah McCrae, 43, former Army medic, current night caretaker for a hospice in rural Vermont, the kind of man who keeps oil lamps you don't need and habits you do. I moved into Leah's great-grandparents' farmhouse after she passed. One road, 3 mailboxes, a porch that knew how to hold grief without collapsing. The house had its own weather, a cold spot under the attic hatch, a breath at the basement door. None of it felt evil. It felt unfinished, like a sentence waiting for the verb. Nights were heaviest around 2:30, when the timber groaned the old groan and the wind took inventory of the eaves. On that blue winter at 2:38, the kitchen light flickered once, twice, like the sky was practicing Morse. The bulb didn't blow. The air density changed, the way it does before a thunderhead speaks. The temperature slipped 2 degrees, enough for skin to know before brain. "Okay," I said to an empty room, which was not empty at all. "You have my attention." A figure coalesced by the back door. Not a person, not a shadow, not a trick. A vertical seam in the air turned to geometry, lines intersecting at angles that made Euclid hungry. Where a face should be, a cluster of moving facets, each one reflecting a version of my own eyes back at me like a hall of mirrors that told the truth instead of distorting it. "I am Ketheriel," it said, without expecting anyone to believe it. The voice landed like a chord, many notes, one tone. "A way through." "I prefer doorways to dead ends," I answered, because humor is the first tool I reach for when the world complicates itself. "What are you doing in my kitchen?" "You asked aloud 3 nights ago," Ketheriel said. "Not with your mouth, with your ache." The question behind the question was, why do some remain? "Remain where?" I shot back, just to test if we were using the same map. "In the seam, between rooms, between roles, between heartbeats," Ketheriel answered, then tipped its head toward the ceiling joist where Leah had once tucked a roll of emergency cash. "Between your stubbornness and your mercy." I set 2 mugs down because my father taught me that if you're going to talk to a stranger at night, coffee is a kind of armor. "Teach me," I said, "but don't preach." "Preachers love answers," Ketheriel said, amused. "Way-throughs prefer maps. The hook you came for. Why souls get stuck." Ketheriel held up a hand that was not a hand and unfolded 5 luminous threads across my kitchen table. Attachment without consent. When the newly departed refuses to release a person, place, or identity, not out of love but out of control, they stick, Ketheriel said. It is not love that binds. It is fear's imitation. Unintegrated shock. Sudden deaths, accidents, violence can compress attention so tightly that the soul doesn't register options. It replays the last frames until something widens. Obligation without completion. The vow that felt holy and heavy can glue a soul to a threshold. I can't leave. I promised. Promises can be kept from elsewhere, but the newly departed often don't know the new routes. Identity collapse. If a person believes they are only their role, mother, soldier, healer, the transition can feel like annihilation. They cling to proof of existence. Rooms, routines, names spoken by others. Story imprint. Houses remember. So do battlefields and hospitals. Not conscious ghosts, but grooves. Souls arriving at those grooves can fall into the track and loop until meaning dislodges them. Those are the snares, Ketheriel said. There are others. These will do for a first lesson. How do you know? I asked, because my skepticism is a hard hat, not a weapon. I guide both ways, it answered. I meet the living who are heavy and the departed who are dense. Both can be lightened. Act 1. The room that wouldn't exhale. The farmhouse had a back bedroom we never used. Low ceiling, one window, wallpaper with faded vines. The dog, Roscoe, refused to cross the threshold, which was odd for a creature who considered most thresholds a suggestion. When I stood in that doorway, my chest tightened like altitude. The air had a weight, not oppressive, but insistent, like a hand on your sternum during a panic attack, telling you to breathe slower. I put a chair in the hall and watched the empty room until my attention became a wire the house could use. "Feel the groove," Kethriel said, standing behind me or in me, hard to tell. I closed my eyes and let the room tell a story in a language that wasn't words. A woman humming. 1954. A crib against that wall where the plaster cracked like a river map. An argument outside the door. Voices turned down, anger turned up. A vow. "I will not leave you." A man leaves anyway. The woman stays. The baby stays. The vow doesn't evolve, it calcifies. "The vow is the glue," Kethriel said. "The child grew, the mother did not." "Is the mother here?" I asked. "She isn't," Kethriel said. "The groove is." "Then what am I helping?" I said, hands on my knees. "The part of you that recognizes the groove," it answered, "and the next newly departed who might fall into it." Act 2. The seam explained. "Start with mechanics," I said. "My brain is a farm boy. It can do poetry after it sees the machine." Kethriel obliged. "The seam is a state, not a place. It's the overlap in the Venn diagram of worlds," it said. "Close enough to the physical to borrow its rules, close enough to the subtle to alter them. Getting stuck is compression. Imagine attention as a field, fear, shock, rigid vows. These compress the field until options look like walls. Wider states, gratitude, permission, remembered purpose, expand the field and reveal exits. Consent governs motion. No one is dragged, but compression can hide the awareness of choice. That's where way-throughs and the living help. Stories operate like software. Narratives you believed in life, about punishment, unworthiness, unfinished business, run by default at death unless interrupted. "Interrupted how?" I asked. "Ritual," Kethriel said. "Language, witness, permission, demonstration. Attention." Act 3. The 5 snares and how to loosen them. Attachment without consent. Case, Mr. Douglas, room 6, hospice wing. Died at 4:12 a.m. He'd told his wife for months, "I'm not going anywhere." She thought it was devotion. It was control dressed as care. After his passing, the room felt like a man holding his breath. His wife couldn't sleep without feeling fingertips on her wrist, checking pulse. The houseplants in their sunroom drooped every night at 2, perked every morning at 6 when she opened the blinds. The checking drew life in tiny sips. Loosening, speak consent into the room. "Douglas, you don't need her pulse to exist. She doesn't need your hand to find morning. Give the attachment a job elsewhere. We need a pulse checker in the city of remembering. Newly arrived souls panic when they can't feel their radial. Go there. Serve them. Ritual. Move the watch he wore to a window. Speak aloud while moving. Time belongs to light now." The wife did it. The houseplants stopped drooping at night. Unintegrated shock case, Route 14 curve, maple tree with the scar. Neighbors call it the place. 3 crosses. The night air there feels like memory stuttering. Drivers drop 2 miles per hour without deciding to. A teenager crashed there in August. Residents whispered, "He's still around." What lingered wasn't his soul. It was the last 4 seconds of his attention looping. Headlights, guardrail, tree. Oh! Loosening. Widen the loop with a story longer than 4 seconds. I parked. I sat with Kethriel breathing beside through me. I spoke to the air. "Kid, your name is Aaron. Your mother hates the word closure and loves soup with dill. Your dog Max is sleeping at the foot of your bed right now. I told everything I could verify the next day. Not because the dead need facts, but because truth is a wedge in compression. Demonstrate choice. You can step left," I said out loud in the driver's seat. My foot moved left without gas or brake. The loop widened. The air changed. The curve lost a degree of grief. The next week, no one lit new votives. The makeshift altar was dusty. Dust is mercy sometimes, obligation without completion. Case, Mrs. Alvarez, kitchen table, rosary, 8 kids. Died with a grocery list half written. Vow, I will feed them all. She stayed, at the table, at the list. Loosening, completion ritual by proxy. We gathered the kids. We divided the list. We cooked a meal from her handwriting. We left a plate on the table with a napkin note. We fed them. The house exhaled. Her youngest dreamed of her that night, not at the table, but in a field, handing out bread that never ran out. Reassign Vow, Mrs. Alvarez. The Orchard of Unfinished Goodbyes has a kitchen. They need a list keeper. Go there. Feed the newly arrived until they remember they can taste. Identity collapse. Case. Captain Rhodes, 20-year infantry, 2 tours. His house felt like a barracks after he died, even with no one in it. He was captain until his last syllable. He didn't believe in anything soft. He didn't believe in himself without stripes. Loosening. Give a new identity that isn't an erasure, but a widening. Captain, we need a rangemaster of the threshold, I said at his empty kitchen table. Your job is to teach the newly departed how to orient, not by rank, but by rhythm. Ritual. We folded his uniform with ceremony. 3 men who'd never served, learning the folds from a video one of their sons sent. Ceremony is a technology. The house lost its parade rest posture. It learned to sit. Language swap. His daughter stopped saying, "My dad was a soldier," and started saying, "My dad was a man who could carry heavy things." He visited her once in a dream wearing flannel. He was laughing. Story imprint, house grooves. Case, the farmhouse back bedroom, the vow groove. I will not leave you. Then the leaving. Then the vow stuck like gum under a pew. Loosening. Counter story. Same room. I sat in the doorway and read aloud letters of departure done well, soldiers' goodbyes with permission in them, hospice notes that said, "Go when you need to. I will carry the mornings." Rooms listen to words. They update. Permission practice. For a week, I stood there at 2:38 and said, "You may go, you may go, you may go." Kethriel said the seam learned my tone. Tones teach passage. Physical shift. We moved the crib groove, the cracked plaster panel, to a different wall and hung it in the hallway like art. We labeled it Promise Retired. Roscoe started sleeping in the back room. Act 4. The Ethics of Helping. "Tell me the lines I must not cross," I said. "Helping the dead sounds like the kind of thing humans turn into control very fast." Kethriel pleased. 5 ethics. Consent or silence. If a presence doesn't engage, don't push. Not your business. No hero costumes. You are not rescuing anyone. You are widening options. Rescue is control's twin. Verify before you mythologize. Use anchors, names, dates, details. Truth is medicine. Ritual over spectacle. Candles, bread, letters burned in sinks. Keep it domestic. The seam trusts kitchens. Reciprocity. When you help, ask to be taught. The seam will show you your own grooves. Trade arrogance for apprenticeship. Act 5. Why some stay on purpose and why that's okay. Not all stuckness is stuck, Kethriel added, unspooling a thread I hadn't asked for, because humility is a late-breaking skill with me. Guardianship. Some remain as household mentors, ancestors who tend, not haunt. The difference is their consent and yours. Placekeepers. There are souls who hold trauma sites in gentleness until the place is ready to rewild. When the land exhales, they go. Teaching. Some guide the newly departed at choke points, busy nights, hospital corridors, war anniversaries. How do I tell? I asked. Compression feels like tightness and loops. Chosen presence feels like warmth and witness, Kethriel said. If the room softens when you speak, meet the mentor. If it sharpens, loosen the snare. Veridical anchors, for your skeptical mind, the maple curve. After the step left night, the town's speed monitor data showed a tiny uptick in average speed, 2 mph, between 2:20 and 3 a.m. for 2 weeks straight. Panic loosens. People drive like humans again. Mrs. Alvarez's list, The youngest found a recipe card wedged under the silverware tray the next morning, pan con leche, in her handwriting, the last item the list never reached. We baked it. The kitchen stopped holding its breath. Captain Rhodes. His daughter dreamed of him in flannel. She didn't tell me, she told her therapist. The therapist told her to tell me. I asked, was there a table in the dream? Yes. Were there maps? Yes. Were there rank insignia? No. Exactly, I said, and we both cried in the way men sometimes forget they can. The hour most souls falter and how to meet it. Why 2 to 3 a.m., I asked. Because every night caretaker knows the hour when the world is noises and nerves. Circadian trough, Kethriel said. Physically, cortisol low, temperature low, vigilance tired. Metaphysically, the seam thins when bodies are quiet. It is a good hour for widening and a bad hour for arguing. What to do at 2:38? Sit in a doorway with your feet on different floors. Doorways teach balances. Say the name you miss and add "you may go" after it, even if the grief in you wants to say "stay." Paradox is a corridor. Put bread in the oven. Rising dough makes rooms remember beginnings. Open one window an inch. Air is a theology. If you sense tightness, repeat a permission formula 3 times. You are not your last act. You are not your role. You are free to find the wider room. If you sense warmth, say thank you out loud and ask for a lesson. Then sleep with a pen nearby. Mentors like ink. What sticks people? For the comment section you're about to flood. Vows said in fear. Always, never, I can't leave. Teach your living mouth to retire those words now. Unfinished forgiveness. The grudge you practice is the groove you cut. Practice release like scales. Names not said. The departed starve when their names are hidden. Say the names. Kitchens are altars. Rooms never rearranged. Move one piece of furniture after a death. Let the room know reality updated. Stories of punishment. If you were taught you'll be dragged, practice consent now. Say yes and no kindly and often. The living role, what actually helps. Speak permission at bedsides. Go when you need, I will meet you in the field of first light. Replace rest in peace with travel in clarity. Peace is a state. Clarity is a map. Burn letters you'll never send. Smoke is legible in the seam. Break bread on anniversaries and feed strangers. Vows of nourishment reroute obligation. Keep a widening shelf. A candle, a loaf pan, a pen, an old key. Use them when rooms tighten. Teach kids to say goodbye without lies. Grandpa died, we can still talk. His body stopped, his love didn't. What not to do? Harm reduction for helpers. Don't demand signs on a schedule. That's control in a new outfit. Don't threaten the dead with your theology. Offer maps, not sentences. Don't perform rituals you don't respect. The seam hears the difference between theater and craft. Don't turn stuckness into identity. Our house is haunted is less useful than our house has a groove we're sanding. Don't forget your own consent. If you're tired, say not tonight. Boundaries hold doors open longer. The entity's last lesson, and my first assignment, you asked for reasons, Kethriel said. Now ask what to practice. What should I practice, one I said, because you don't look a gift map in the mouth. Practice small permissions, it answered. The way you let your dog go ahead on the trail when you used to keep him at heel. The way you let your breath finish its exhale. The way you let a song end without replay. And in the house? I asked. Bake bread on the days the wind pushes the shutters, it said. Say names at sync time, retire vows that never learned to bend, move chairs on purpose. Then it did something I did not expect. It placed an image in my mind of Leah standing by the orchard we never planted, pointing at a line of saplings. Plant them in spring, Kethriel said. Call it the goodbye grove. Invite the town. Return to the kitchen, same night. The light stopped flickering. The temperature lifted 2 degrees back. Roscoe, who had been pretending he wasn't nervous, exhaled out loud like a cartoon. I poured a cup for a being that does not drink, and one for me. Only one steamed. 2 felt appropriate. Will you be back? I asked the seam. When you widen, the cord answered. Then it folded back into geometry, and geometry folded into air, and Air remembered it could be quiet. What happened next? So you know this isn't just a midnight story. We planted the Goodbye Grove, 10 saplings, each named for a person lost that year. Families wrote retired vows on biodegradable tags. I will always keep you safe when I will never let go. Tied them to branches and let spring absorb what winter had hardened. People came to breathe. Rooms in town got lighter by degrees, measurable only by grandmothers and dogs. Mr. Douglas's wife moved his watch to the window. She started sleeping. Plants stopped fainting at night. She began volunteering at hospice, checking pulses where it helps. The maple curve got boring. If you know, you know. When a haunted curve gets boring, you just won. Captain Rhodes's daughter folded his uniform with a nurse and a teenager who breaks skateboards for a living. They cried and laughed and swore. The house, according to her, stopped standing at attention. The back bedroom learned to be a guest room. Roscoe snores there now. He chases a rabbit in his sleep that I hope exists somewhere rabbits can't lose. The hook, tightened and delivered in the darkest hour, an interdimensional way through explained why some souls get stuck. Vows that won't bend, shock that shrinks the corridor, identities that can't survive their own names, grooves cut by rooms and stories that didn't learn to update. None of it requires fear. All of it responds to attention, permission, ritual, and truth. If your house sighs, if your nights are crowded, if your grief keeps its boots on, here's what to do tonight. Sit in a doorway with your feet on different floors. Say, "You may go," 3 times. Then say, "If you stay, teach." Bake something simple, bread or silence. Both rise. Retire one vow out loud. Always. Never. Trade it for often and enough. Move one chair. Rooms learn from chairs. Put a name on your tongue and let your mouth practice letting it go without dropping it. Write a letter. Burn it in the sink. Smoke speaks seam. Drop your stories in the comments. The loops loosened, the obligations retired, the kitchens that learned to breathe again. Someone reading has the same groove. Your map can be their way through. Subscribe if you want more field manuals from the seam, not because algorithms are hungry, but because practice is easier when the room is full of people who know how to widen together. Remember, stuck is a state, not a sentence. Consent is sovereign. Love doesn't glue, it guides. And the darkest hour has rules.